Since 2008, I've run over 5,000 events and hosted well over 1 million people. This podcast is for event planners and marketers and the industry's brightest minds. My name is Nick Field. This is the Professional Partier Podcast. You can follow me at Nicholas John Field on all your major social networks. Have you ever wanted to own or to operate or even build your own bar? In this episode, I talk about the steps that you need to take to launch your own bar. And that's everything from finding the right site all the way up to selling your first drink. If you find this interesting, there's only one way for this show to grow, and that is by you subscribing and leaving us a good rating. So please, if you find this helpful, please do subscribe, rate us, and forward this to a friend who might be interested. Thank you very much. Enjoy. Hey, I'm Nick. Welcome to the Professional Partier Podcast. Hello, I'm Nick. Welcome to the Professional Partier Podcast. Today, I'm going to show you how to build a bar. More specifically, how I built my bar here in Las Vegas. So I've got a bar, Raised by Wolves, that's here in downtown Las Vegas, right off of Fremont Street. And I opened it about 1.5 years ago. At first, I didn't have any experience opening a bar. So let me walk you through exactly what I did, exactly what I had to do to get open, and where we're at now and what it's like to run it now. The first thing that you need to consider when opening a bar is, why do you want to open a bar? Now, I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but you need to understand, if you want to be behind the bar, if you want to be drinking, if you want to be the social person, that's cool. Just understand that. Where if you want to open up a business that's going to make money, you need to understand that as well. And you're realistically going to run them different ways. The first thing that I wanted to find was a good location. Location. Now, Raised by Wolves here is about 150, maybe 200 feet away from the Fremont Street Experience, which has tens of thousands of people walking by every hour on a Friday or Saturday. Now, being 200 feet away can make or break your bar. But because I've experience in the promotions side of the entertainment industry, I was pretty confident that I can get people to move 200 feet and get into my bar. If you don't have any experience doing that, you might actually have problems if your bar is not in a good location. So you really want to think about your location. Also, the whole Fremont area is popping. Like, there is bars everywhere. There's bars upstairs, there's bars downstairs, there's restaurants around here, and it is getting better and better and better. And I see a vision for the Fremont area in Las Vegas to be coming up over the next little while and getting more and more popular. We have seen a huge rise in people in the last several years, and I see that trend continuing. So this location was a big thing for me. I was walking around the area one evening and I saw a shell of a spot, and I recognized immediately that this would be a good spot for a bar. But the thing is that it wasn't a bar before. It was just an office or an art gallery or like some shop, and it had nothing to it. But I realized that it probably wouldn't be too hard to renovate this place into a bar. Keep in mind, I'd never done this before. I didn't know what was involved. So that was on a Friday. On the Monday, I go into the landlord and I say, hey, my name is Nick. I run a bunch of entertainment parties and things like that in Las Vegas, and I would love to open a bar in your spot. He wanted to see a more detailed proposal of what I wanted. So I put some of my ideas on paper, got it rolling, and presented him a plan for what this bar was going to be. Luckily, my landlord was super into the idea. He has a vision for this building to be filled with bars and restaurants, so it matched his vision completely. So then the next thing that I had to do was start talking about rent. So when you're renting a place or when you're negotiating a lease, there's a few bargaining chips that you're going to have. Keep in mind, this was just an empty shell. So I was going to have to put in hundreds of thousands of dollars in order to turn it into a bar. Now that benefits the landlord quite a bit. Let's say that my bar doesn't make it and I go out of business. I have to leave, but he still has a bar. He still has all the equipment. He still has everything that's in this bar that I installed with my money. So I tried to negotiate that into my lease and tried to organize tenant improvements. Tenant improvements basically means that you're improving a property and you should get some sort of concession on your lease for doing that. So that didn't go too far, but I was able to negotiate a few things. I was able to negotiate no rent during the time that there was construction. And then I was able to negotiate a percent rent for the first year of our operations. And if you are able to negotiate a percent rent, that's great, because if you make, let's say, $100,000, you negotiate a 9% lease, that means that you have to pay $9,000 in rent for the year or for the month or however long the time frame is. So that makes a lot of sense, especially if you don't have experience, especially if it is coming up and not already busy. That was a bargaining chip that did well for us. Once I negotiated the lease, it was time to actually put the plan together. So I was thinking about getting a general contractor. I was thinking about getting my business license. I was thinking about getting this place designed. So let's talk about those three things. So the first thing that I wanted to make sure was, could I get a business license? In order to get a business license, you need to, not just a business license, you have to get a business license, and you have to get a liquor license, and you have to get a special use permit. So this is zoned to be a mall, and it doesn't necessarily have specific verbiage in the zoning for bars and restaurants. So you have to go to the city and you have to say, hey, even though this is zoned for a mall, I would like to get a special use permit allowing me to have a bar or restaurant. And as long as it fits within the city's plan, they're usually happy to do that. But cities can be fickle. I know lots of friends in lots of other cities that have a lot of issues with getting the licensing and the zoning that they need on ventures that they're trying to open. So it's something you want to make sure you've got dialed in, which is why I brought on a consultant to help me get the special use permit and to help me get the liquor license. The liquor license is something that changes from city to city. Here, my liquor license was going to cost me approximately $50,000. That's just for the license to be able to pour liquor. In some jurisdictions, I know that they will not even issue new licenses. Like, I had a business up in Whistler, Canada, and for a long time, there was a moratorium on issuing new liquor licenses. And so what people had to do if they wanted to open up a bar is they'd have to get it transferred from somebody else. So if like bar A is closing, bar B could pick it up, but there could not be a bar C that just hopped on the scene. It was like that for a long time. Don't know if it still is, but that's something you want to take into consideration. Make sure you've got the ability to get your liquor license. Also, here in Las Vegas, there's a history of like gangsterism in Vegas. So they're really particular about who they're issuing these type of licenses to. So I had to go through like a full background check. They wanted to see backgrounds on my wife. They wanted to see my business partners. They wanted to see my business partners' spouses, uncles, cousins, all that type of stuff, because they want to make sure that there is no money coming in from gangsters coming into Las Vegas, opening up businesses. It was a big problem here. I know other jurisdictions have that issue as well, Las Vegas especially, but hey, it's Vegas. So I was confident I could get my liquor license issued. That was cool. I needed to get an architect, and I needed to get a general contractor. Luckily, my general contractor that I found had architect services built in with what he did. And so I approached him and I was like, hey, I want to open up this bar. I want to try and fit as many people in it. This is going to be the general idea. He needed more specifics. He needed to understand what the decor was going to look like. He wanted to know how many seats we were going to put in. He needed to understand a whole bunch of stuff before he really got down to work. But he told me right off the bat, you're going to need more bathrooms. There was only one bathroom in here before. So that was like, oh, okay, I need to install a bathroom. That obviously takes up a lot of space out of your footprint, and it's expensive, especially because I'm on the second floor of a building. So I needed to organize getting a bathroom built. We kind of drew up some rough plans for that, and then I approached a designer. So the designer put together all this decor. I basically said to my designer, hey, this is the concept we want. We want Raised by Wolves. We want it a party, rowdy bar. We want it to be like fun, dark, and cool. And that's basically all the direction that I gave her. And she came back a couple weeks later with this amazing design, which I have completely fallen in love with, and most of our guests have fallen in love with as well. So it pays to go and do that. Not only did our designer come up with the design, she designed where the bar was going to be. She needed a little bit of direction on what equipment we needed within the bar, but I'll go back to that. But she designed what the walls were going to be, all the art on the walls, all the fixtures, where the TVs were going to be, where the shelving was going to be, where the storage was going to be, where she was going to source all of the tables, all the chairs, everything. She did everything. And that was amazing. So we were able to present our plan to the general contractor, and the general contractor was then able to start building stuff. So our general contractor was like a full service general contractor. I could have had to get many different contractors. I would have had to get an architect and someone who specializes in F&B, food and beverage, to figure out all of the sinks, all of the coolers, all of the ice machines, all that type of stuff, because I don't know that stuff. I didn't know all I know is that I wanted to open a bar and I can fill it. That's what I knew. So, but my contractor had built other bars in this area recently and thoroughly understood what was needed to be done to get this place off the ground. So, just like roughly, like we needed coolers. We needed to figure out how our beer was going to get poured. So that's a big part of it, because beer kegs take up a lot of space, and you need to think about how many beer kegs you are going to want in your venue, because a lot of places will have like a back cooler that will be like 100, 200 square feet that'll have beer tap lines going all over the place. We were more comfortable, because this is a small venue, with having what we call as a kegerator, which is basically like a chest freezer size box that fits 2 or 3 kegs inside it, and the taps come directly from it. Super, super easy and straightforward. Doesn't require having lines all over the place. We got those. You need a ton of sinks. Like, I had no idea all the sinks that you needed, but health code requires that you have specific places for washing dirty crap and places for washing your hands, and those are 2 different areas, and they have to be covered around them by waterproof material, and there needs to be specific drainage. You need to have a mop sink in a back area. There's so much stuff. Plus, you need to make sure that your bathrooms are compliant. The bathroom issue was like a big deal for us. So we only had 1 bathroom before. It was ADA, American Disability Act compliant, but we needed to add a second bathroom if we wanted to have our capacity be increased. So we had to install this other bathroom, which required them to x-ray the building for where the pipes were and like all this crazy stuff. And getting these bathrooms installed and like ready and good to go was a big deal for us. So we got that all designed, and then our general contractor started to put the process together. We had to think about the floors. What were the floors going to be made of? Are they going to be made of vinyl? Are they going to be made of epoxy? We went with epoxy here. That had to get made. The bar had to get built, framed up. Laminate put on top. Everything was built from scratch. All the lighting had to come in. The lighting was a big deal as well, because obviously there's a lot of electric work that had to get done, and the sprinkler system was a big deal. Making sure that you are safe in case there's a fire. Your emergency exits have to be good. all this stuff had to be considered. And as a result, like general contractors that have all these services built into it, they're not cheap. So we went through it all, but I had to sign off pretty much on everything. Nick, what kind of lighting do you want? Nick, the sprinkler heads need to be here, 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 and here. How do you want to cover those or blend them into the decor? Like these things needed to be considered. And then once the bar was more or less built, we started bringing in the equipment. So the equipment, like we're on the second floor, some of this equipment, like our ice machine and our coolers and our kegerator, like this stuff had to be craned in basically. And so bringing that stuff in was a big deal. And it started to inflate our costs quite a bit. We built this place at about $200 a foot, which isn't too bad. It's not too bad. Actually, a little bit more than that, but that's not too bad. And that actually includes some of the soft costs that we had to bring in, which is like your licensing, just administrative costs and things like that. Once the equipment was in, health inspections had to come in. They had to make sure that we had everything was up to code. A big deal that we had to get done was, I didn't realize how big of a deal this is, but you need to have a soda gun, or like you should have a soda gun. And those soda gun lines are complicated. They're really complicated, and they're going all over the place. And we have this section in the back where we've got all the soda and concentrate and these lines and wires all over the place. I didn't realize how big of a deal that was. We actually had to get an outside consultant for the sodas, so that was a big deal for us. The whole time while this was getting built, we're making sure that we are all good on the city side of things. So we obviously had to get a building permit for once we started construction, and under construction we had permits to do so. Safety inspections were happening during instructions all the time, and we were making sure that we were going to be able to get our business license issued and our liquor license issued, 2 separate licenses. So once health, fire, building all gave the green light on what we did. So those 3 things, you need building, health, and fire, making sure that you're all good. Then they'll issue you your business license. They'll issue you your liquor license. And what's most important is your occupancy permit. So once the construction is done, once you've got your building permit, and everything is good, and they've looked over all that stuff, you get your occupancy permit. And your occupancy permit allows you to actually have people inside here. So that was the process of us to get this thing off the ground. It was an interesting deal, and it's been a lot of fun. We've been doing well. We're at capacity like most weekends, and we have a pretty awesome team, and it's been a lot of fun. But I've been asked, like, what would I change knowing everything I know now if I were to do this over again? And the answer is that not really a lot. I definitely would have been a little bit more proactive on getting the cable, internet, and the sound system installed with the general contractor, and some of the lighting, because once we were done, we're like, oh, the lighting's not right, the sound is not right, and did anybody think about cable TV or how we're going to connect all these TVs? And we hadn't, and so we had to go back and change things. And so like electricians had to come back in, start messing around with stuff. We had to redo lighting, all this stuff. Would have been so much easier had we had just gotten it right the first time. But all in all, that's not that big of a deal. I also would have changed the setup that we presented to the city of where all the chairs and tables were going to be, because at first we limit ourselves with capacity because we didn't make a specific standing room area, and as a result we had a low capacity at first. We had to go back and get that fixed, so I would have fixed that. But other than that, like, I think I just would have started marketing earlier and harder, because it took us about 5 months or so to really find where our marketing jam was like good and for us to start getting really busy. Now, I would have worked more on like a launch. When we first launched, we had a big build up to the launch. There was a whole ribbon cutting. The mayor of Las Vegas, Carolyn Goodman, came here, and we had like the big scissors, and I like went in front and cut the red ribbon. And then we invited all of our like friends and family and people of the community to come in and come check it out. And we got really good reception from doing that, and it was good. And then we had like a nice little hum of business after that for the next several months. And then once we started getting into good marketing, we went crazy, and it started getting super busy in here. When we first launched the bar, we were at like a hum. So we would do okay on the weekends in particular. We would do okay, and then the weekdays were quite dead. Like only a handful of people would come in during the day. But then after about 4 or 5 months, we started developing a reputation that was good and really, really. Like we went viral on TikTok, we went viral on Instagram, and just going viral online, threefold our business. Like we tripled overnight from going viral on TikTok. So that was a big turning point for us, and then we've stayed consistent since then. Like we made a reputation for ourselves, but it took about 5 months for that to happen. And it's been rolling nicely since then. The way that I set up this bar, I have other businesses that are in like promotions and nightclub tours and things like that. So I was able to keep it pretty busy in here, even though it wasn't normal customers. And so I had that advantage. Like I was always able to keep a good amount of people and get a good amount of use from it. But as far as like the finances went, I was basically breaking even on it. Maybe even losing a little bit of money. Some weekends we'd make a little bit of money for like the first 5 months. But then once we started like actually, pulling in lots of just random people and people from all over Las Vegas, and then tourists and visitors that were coming here that have heard about us, and then we started doing a lot better. So I intend to go into a lot of detail about how we market this bar because it is several episodes on its own, but it's a combination of several things. So social media is a big part of it. We definitely have a reputation on social media. Like we have tens of thousands of followers. We've gotten millions of views, and people know us from our social media. That for sure happens, but it's not everybody. Not everybody that's in the bar is like, oh, I came here because of social media, or I'm aware of your social media. It's only a fraction of that. So we have people that are the locals around here. That's a big thing. We want to go around to the neighboring bars, the neighboring businesses around here. We want to invite them in and be like, hey, come in and come have a drink and watch the game, or come in and get blasted after your shift, or get blasted before your shift. And so we make an effort to do that. We run a promo team as well, and our promo team, we've had very success with promo teams. I have a lot of experience with them, but sometimes we have a team that crushes it, sometimes not so much. There's a lot going on in Las Vegas, downtown Las Vegas. So there's events sometimes that'll like come and crush it. We had the When We Were Young festival last year cancel one of their nights. This was a festival with like all these bands, and they canceled one night. Like there was too much wind and the festival could not happen. So we had tens of thousands of people with nothing to do. And we got a lot of business from that night. And there was this one promoter from LA who threw a party here. It did well. And that helped us kind of like get the vibe out more to like some of the LA crowd, which is cool. We got a lot of people from Phoenix. We got a lot of people from Houston that know about us back there, and then they come here, and it's like they're coming here to jam. So that's cool. So one of the things I actually think I did really well was get the right team. So the team that I got from the designer to the architect and general contractor, to some of the consultants, and then our general manager. Our general manager was I think a really good hire because he brought on a really, really good team, and like just the vibe of the place is really, really good. So I would make sure that you really take your time picking the right team if you're going to launch a bar. So yeah, that's it. That's how I built this bar from start to finish. If you have any questions or comments, shoot me a comment down below and I'll be sure to get back to you. I'm going to be reading every single one of them, and that's the deal. Thanks for watching.